said, why, there is no problem. I choose the Jewish truth at all times. So hopefully, we'll try again. And this time, hopefully, the court, after having enjoyed 2.5 years of an intifada, may realize that the things that I say are not because I'm a racist, I hate Arabs. It's not so. I don't hate Arabs, I love Jews, which is not always the most easy thing in the world. And so, please God, we'll run. And please God, they'll allow us to, and somehow, please God, we'll make the state of Israel not only a state of Jews, but a Jewish state.
Could you please tell us which yeshiva you studied at, first of all? And second of all, who is your, like if you've got a rabbi, who do you source, who do you look to discuss, or is there anyone that shares your views as well?
Yeah, okay. I studied in the Meir Yeshiva for 14 years. And those of people that know the institution of this school know that it was one of the most famous in Europe. After the Holocaust, during the war, they fled across Russia, and they were in Shanghai, China during the war, and then they came to America in 1946, and I studied there for 14 years. The rabbi whom I turn to when I have a question is the Sephardic chief rabbi of Israel. That is the one whom I turn to. He is my mentor. When I don't have questions, I don't ask. I certainly wasn't ordained for the purpose of here is an ordination and here is the chief rabbi's phone number. I was ordained supposedly with knowledge and my own personal knowledge, and I do have that knowledge. When I don't know something, I turn to him. He is my rabbi. Yes. Yes, sir.
It just staggers the mind. You realize the implications if, for instance, you became Prime Minister of Israel.
Please God.
Please God. All right. The incredible problems that you would have. The United States would, in all probability, cut off relations with Israel, or at least stop aid, number one, which may be a blessing in disguise. I'm not sure at this point. Jews everywhere, all over the world, would be in danger because of your views. I haven't yet formulated how, I haven't come to a complete conclusion on how I feel altogether about you. But Jews would definitely be in danger all over. Maybe that again would be a blessing in disguise. That would force them all to come to Eretz Yisrael. But the weightiness that would, the weight that would lay on your shoulders would be so enormous. Do you not feel that you would be totally overwhelmed by all this?
Could you come down to the microphone? They can't hear you here, though.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we. Okay. I'll first restate the question, and then afterwards I'll give the answer. The essential question was, have I considered the implications that would be if I were to carry out my program? And it's a heavy weight on my shoulders. For example, it might lead to this country cutting off relations with Israel. It might lead to dangers for Jews living in other countries, and so on. In 1948, when Israel was about to be declared a state, Ben-Gurion was warned that 800,000 Jews live in Arab countries. He said, if you dare declare a state, consider the implications of what will happen to these people. A heavy thing. a heavy burden. A month before Israel came into being, the U.S. rescinded its support of the UN partition plan for Israel, which would have created Israel. The Americans imposed an embargo on all weapons to the Middle East, which really meant against Israel because the Arabs were getting weapons for the British. And Secretary of State George Marshall called in the man who would become the first foreign minister of Israel, Moshe Sharet, and told him, tell Ben-Gurion that not to declare a state because you cannot survive. You have only 600,000 men, women, and children. You have no bombers, you have no tanks. You can't survive. It was a heavy weight on Ben-Gurion's shoulders. And he said, there will be a state, and we'll survive. And he declared the state. And God shone his countenance upon Israel, and the Jews were not massacred in the Arab countries. And suddenly someone decided to sell Israel weapons. That well-known Zionist, Joseph Stalin. If you were Jimmy the Greek, what odds would you put on that? My friend, if you do that which has to be done, then God helps. What in the world makes you think that America will cut off relations with Israel? What in the world makes you think that Americans give a care about Jews or Arabs? Most Americans are wondering, certainly in Texas, will the Texas Rangers beat out Oakland? That's what they think about mostly. Will the Mets pitching staff carry them through even though they have no hitting? That's what they're concerned about. What in the world makes you think that America has backed Israel all these years because we are good? Good. Countries don't back countries because they're good. Countries back countries out of self-interest. Know that. You don't think that Israel is to the interest of this country? How much would the Haifa naval base cost America if it had to rent it, as it does bases in the Philippines, in Greece, and Spain? It gets to use our naval base free of charge any time the Sixth Fleet wants to. How much is that worth to America? The Negev has been used by the U.S. Armed Forces now for over a decade. They store hundreds of millions of dollars worth of U.S. weapons in the Negev desert in case of a war. Where else could they do it in that region? Where Egypt, it'd be stolen in 2 days. How much is it worth to the CIA when Israel allows them to see the first MiG-29 that they've ever seen right up close, and they take it apart and they photograph every single inch of it? How much is that worth? If these things are not worth anything to America, then they should not give Israel money. If it is worth it to America, then know that it is a two-way street. We give, we get. America gives, America gets. And above all, Israel doesn't need America to survive. On the contrary, it is America's future that lies in the balance. For those that bless thee shall be blessed, and those that curse thee shall be cursed. Furthermore, in our platform, we have called for an end to U.S. economic aid to Israel. I don't want the money. It doesn't help us. It does two things to us.